Welcome to our lecture today. My name is Heng. Today is Saturday, the 11th of January here in the Gold Coast of Queensland. Happy New Year. It's a Friday back in California, and hope all of you are well and avoiding the fires if you're in Southern California. We're about to launch into our continued lecture on the picture biography of Master Empty Cloud, Master Xuyun. So let's get going. Today, Sarah is going to be our Dharma requester all the way from Tennessee. And I'm going to ring the bell 3 times and invite you all to join me in making 3 half bows to the Buddha, and then we'll have Sarah request Dharma. So here we go. First bow, second bow, and third bow. Okay, Sarah, if you'd like to request Dharma, please go ahead and do it now.
恭敬大德圣听，为此法会一切众生，请传妙法轮教导我们，如何了生脱死离苦得乐。 苏张无上. Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo saranto suchedoye alahari samya sambuddhosye.
Namo saranto suchiroye elahari samya samputtoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in billions of eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Alrighty, Sarah, we appreciate the Dharma request all the way from Memphis, and going to continue to say that we respectfully acknowledge the Kombu-Meri people, the Ugambe language region, as traditional storytellers and custodians of the land where our monastery is located here in the Gold Coast. We pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging, and to all First Nations people whose sovereignty was never ceded. And what I just said, if you translate it into Chinese, goes, 我们恭敬地承认Ugambe语族的贡布马里人，他们是我们这里这个黄金海岸这个法界黄金那个金安法界的道场，我们所在地的传统叙事者和守护人。我们向过去、现在和未来的长者们致敬，并且向所有从来没有放弃主权的第一民族的原住民致敬，无论在哪个地方。All right, and another protocol here. Bell sound wide resounds throughout 100 million worlds. The Buddha's law is heard and spread all throughout the triple world. The wondrous sounds that everywhere fill the Dharma realm with peace May those who hear it gain the strength to follow in faith the Buddha's path. 众生传3000劫内，佛法扬万亿国中，共训其法界和平，利益报他那厚德。Alrighty. Now, if folks were going to be going through our text, then we're going to transfer merit at the end, as we do. And should people not have any place to dedicate merit, I would encourage you to dedicate to all the living beings in the Los Angeles basin who just 3-4 days ago were leading their lives, getting up, going to work, going to school, taking care of their elders, taking care of their kids, just as normal. But nature, the fire element in the universe got out of balance again. And before they know it, before their eyes, the word that everyone is using is gone. Just the homes are gone, the schools are gone, the libraries are gone, coffee shops are gone, the pictures on the wall are gone. And it's a major disaster down in the LA basin. So if you don't have anywhere else to transfer, and that's certainly up to you, I'd encourage folks to send goodness in that direction, because there's lots of families that are suddenly homeless, and all they have left is truly just ashes, a vacant lot with ashes. So it's kind of a Dharma lesson about how quickly things return, how fluid is the world that we take for granted, and how quickly, just in a twinkling before your eyes, sparks come along and burn it all down and take it all away. So this is a bitter lesson in impermanence, and we hope that folks will have the resilience to rebuild and put their lives back together. So just mentioning. Okay, now for weeks we have been teasing everybody, saying Master Empty Cloud's biography has a very dramatic moment coming up. Well, that time is today. So we're going to do 3 episodes today and let the story unfold. Here we go. Last week, we found our pilgrim, our hero. Oh, by the way, I should mention, I haven't mentioned yet, 如果各位愿意听一种流利的翻译中文的话，普通话，那个控制板的右下角有个小地球 ，interpretation， 是不是？你按那个钮，你就会听到 Chinese 就中文哈，流利。There's also a Vietnamese translation happening right behind the link on the chat box. And our tireless coordinator, who is currently back home in Wuhan, China, will be happy to set you up as a Dharma requester, just the way we heard Sarah do it today. So that's up to you. Send her an email and take your turn to request Dharma. Okay, last week, people recall what was going on. Here's the picture. The picture shows a maopeng, which is a word for a hut, a cottage, what do you say, a shack, sort of a shack. Now, mind you, if you go to China, you can find giant, vast monasteries that are known as maopeng, but that's kind of said tongue-in-cheek. They started out maybe as a maopeng 800 years ago, and now they're vast monastic compounds. But the pure sense of a maopeng is just enough, a roof, maybe a wall or two, a place where you can eat food, and a place where you can relieve nature, and where you can sleep without mosquitoes or winds. But that's it, pretty much. That's a maopeng. So in this case, it's much closer to the original meaning. It's a place, Master Empty Cloud, he's 53 years old. It's 1892, and he has made his way to the top of Jiuhuashan, which is Nine Flowers Mountain. And Nine Flowers Mountain is Earth Store Bodhisattva's dedicated monastery. It's famous for, there's all kinds of miracles that have happened, including the founding of Jiuhuashan. I won't be telling that story today, but if anybody is interested, look up Nine Flowers Mountain and how it came about, how the original monastery came into being. It's quite a great story. Now, in our photo, in our picture, it's not a photo, it's a line drawing here. In our line drawing, we see monks gathered around a table, sitting on seats, in a gathering, an assembly. What's going on, according to the story, is a lecture on the Avatamsaka Sutra. So let's just quickly get ourselves into the context by looking at this episode, last week's episode again. Okay, here we go. It goes, 人臣53岁，约普照月下，应怜诸法师结尾同参，同上九华山，修翠凤茅棚同住，由普照师主讲《大方广佛华严经》，弘五教义，先手一宗，协缀已久，各处闻讲多附会，讲下先教辅正 which says, during Master Empty Cloud's 53rd year, he joined in cultivation together with Venerable Masters Pu Zhao, Yue Xia, and Yin Lian, three noble monks. They climbed up Nine Flowers Mountain, and it is a climb. It's a very steep mountain, and repaired the huts at the summit called Cui Feng, Azure Peak, where Dharma Master Pu Zhao explained the Avatamsaka Sutra. He used a particular method called the 5 teaching modes of the Shenshou Avatamsaka school, which had fallen out of popularity for quite a while, since the Song Dynasty. People came from all over and showed great interest in his lectures. Thus, the Shenshou teaching was revived in the area south of the river, Jiangnan. Now, this, I mentioned a little bit of it last week. In China, there's the Tiantai. Tiantai school is a way of looking at what the Buddha taught. The Buddha lectured for 49 years. His teachings were gathered together, and over the centuries, people looked at everything the Buddha said and found certain places that they enjoyed, and they went deeply into them, studied them, copied them, translated them, etc. When we're now, let's see, about 800 or 900 years after that, the Chinese got a unique Chinese approach to the teachings, and that was gathered together as the Tiantai school. Well, other monks looked at the teachings and came up with another way, particularly focused on this one sutra, the Avatamsaka, which is what Master Hua explained for 9 years in San Francisco and Ukiah. They gathered those teachings together as a separate school called the Shenshou. So we have the Tiantai and the Shenshou. Shenshou means the worthy, the leader in goodness, the most excellent goodness school. Tiantai is the vista of the devas, vista of the heavens, looking out from the heavens point of view, from the devas point of view. So 2 different schools, 2 different ways of approaching the Buddha's teaching, and 2 focuses. Tiantai is largely Lotus Sutra, Shenshou is largely Avatamsaka. And so it's, there's the same thing happened with the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. There are many different approaches, including entire denominations that look at Jesus' teachings one way, look at the Bible that way, and then another group gets a very different take on it. So this is, for the world's major religions, this is pretty much the pattern. The same is true in Islam, for sure. There's the Sunni approach, there's the Shia approach, and there are subdivisions of those two different ways of looking at the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his presentation of Allah and how to live a good life. So here we have what's interesting about this comment here about Shifu's episode. He says, he explained the 5 teaching modes which have been neglected for centuries. How come? How come it was centuries when these fell out of popularity? Why were they neglected? Well, one of the reasons is 3 times in Chinese Buddhist history, there have been emperors who hated Buddhism, who wanted to destroy it, and did. They purged, the word is purged, 3 times. And interestingly enough, as a sub-footnote, each one of those emperors had the name Wu in their names, their reign period. So, 都有个无字 in their, the Chinese emperors would take a reign period. So, scholars can debate why that's true. Now, the 5 teachings were part of the Shensho teachings from the Tang Dynasty, but then when the Tang Dynasty came to an end, one of the last emperors, named Wu, decided that there were too many monks in robes, there was too much gold tied up in Buddha images, and what he wanted was more soldiers for his army to go off and get glory for the emperor. He wanted more money back in the treasury, so he went about forcing monks back to lay life, burning monasteries, melting images, and when he burned the monasteries, he burnt their libraries. And because these are both the Tiantai and the Shensho have to do with teachings, their teachings were comprised in books. When the libraries burned, the schools went away, they were gone. So this is one of the reasons why the schools kind of disappeared. Interestingly enough, there usually, when we look at the Shensho Avatamsaka school, we say there are 5 generational patriarchs. 5个祖师. The last one was Zongmi Chanshi, Zongmi Kuifeng, and he was interesting because he took the Avatamsaka school and found the teachings of Chan, of meditation, inside it. So he really pulled out the meditative side of the Avatamsaka school. Many tellings of this story say that was the end of the Avatamsaka school, but in fact, another 100 years passed, and 2 more teachers emerged who are truly the last of the Chinese Shensho school teachers. One of them is named Jing Yuan, Jingyuan Fashi Jingyuan Sanzang. He was in the first years of the Song Dynasty, and what's unique about him is that his most important disciple was a Korean monk who came from Korea looking for him, found him in Hangzhou, bowed to him, and Master Jingyuan passed on the Avatamsaka Shensho school Dharma to him. He took it back to Korea, where it flourished, just as it died in China. So that's just one of the historical notes about the Shensho school. Okay, just for what it's worth, I took let's see here. Oh, too many notes. Sorry. Here, I don't want to take us too far away here. I looked up the most important, I'm in the wrong document, that's why. The most important aspects of the Shensho school, just so we can say that we've looked at them, that we know what they are. And I'll boost this up so everybody can see them. I don't want to get away from our story, but I do want folks to take a look at these. We're going to be talking about them more in tomorrow's Avatamsaka lecture, but these are the primary, what do you say, the innovations of the Shensho school that make them different from the Tiantai and that make them interesting to scholars throughout time. One is this thing called Panjiao. Panjiao is classifying the teachings. And what it means is people looked at everything the Buddha taught over 49 years, said, oh, let's put a compass on it and say, what does it include? What's different? What's unique? And they came up with 5 particular teachings. And they are based on the profundity of the teachings. There's the small vehicle. And of course, this sounds pejorative because it sounds like it's dissing monks from Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Laos, Burma, etc., and India. In fact, it's talking more about their state of mind. And these are a set of teachings, not people, who are interested in waking up on their own. Basic principles, cause and effect, things like that. Can't skip it. Can't do without these teachings. But by comparison with the profundity of what comes after, they're considered smaller, all right? Number 2, the Shensho school says there's another set of teachings the Buddha taught which take people beyond liberation for yourself into liberation for all beings. Expands the realm, expands the scope. The initial teachings of the Mahayana. There's a final teachings of the Mahayana, which again is an approach to the Dharma. It's people who look more deeply. There are certain sutras that belong to this particular category. There's practices, etc. There is sudden teachings, dunjiao, sudden cultivation, instant enlightenment, which has to do not so much with sutras or teachings, but with chan, with intuitive insight that you get through meditation. Then this is the one that's so interesting because it's called the Yuan Jiao, the perfect teaching, and it's focused entirely on the Avatamsaka Sutra, which says this is everything, everything. This is the teaching of totality. This is the complete, perfect teaching. So there's a bit of, you can see the perspective. The Tiantai would disagree. The Tiantai school with this teachings would say, well, you're forgetting other sutras, right? So this is an attempt for Chinese Buddhists to look at everything the Buddha taught, to integrate it together and to come out with a system, a framework. So you can say, well, this sutra belongs in category 3, but let's look at category 5. So you get a flavor for it. This is what very intelligent, learned monks and nuns attempting to kind of get a handle on everything the Buddha taught. That's what the 5 teaching modes. And it had been neglected since 1100, so this is now 1800, 1892, it's the end of the 19th century. So for 700 years, nobody had been talking this way. But Master Puzhao said, let's look at the Avatamsaka through the Panjiao, the Wujiao, the 5 schools, the Shensho, and see what you think. Shifu followed it up with a verse, 群而不党上九华，翠峰茅棚共策划，从此正信显手教，华严大法遍河沙. Wonderful verse. He says, a group of casual friends hiked up Nine Flower Mountain. Together, they planned to renovate the huts on Jade's summit. They made the Shensho teaching flourish once again. The Avatamsaka Dharma pervades worlds in number like Ganges sands. So our teacher did the same thing in America with the Avatamsaka Sutra. He didn't label it the Shensho teachings, but he opened them up for us to learn. Okay, there you go. We'll talk more about the Shensho school tomorrow in our lecture on the Avatamsaka. It is now 1893 to 95. There's a period of a wide, longer period reflected in this episode. Master Empty Cloud is still on Jiuhuashan with his fellow cultivators. There's lots of stories from that time about the way he cultivated. Shifu picked out this episode because this is the prelude to Master Empty Cloud's enlightenment. What do they say? First the bitter, followed by the sweet. You have to go through the hardship to get to the advantage at the end. All right, here we go. 鬼寺地贤法师来度夏，甲午仍习经教，已为56岁，扬州高敏寺月郎和尚，约打12个禅期，将戒期，中推功先行，至大同地港后，欲渡无前舟去，沿江行，护失足堕水，浮沉一昼夜。Okay, well, pretty scary. The following year, 93, Dharma Master Dishen, famous monk, came to pass the summer. He brought with him some news. The master stayed on the mountain to study sutras. The news was that Abbot Yue Lang of Gaomin Monastery in Yangzhou was going to convene a 12-week session of Chan meditation, 12 weeks. While preparing to attend, the group of the monks that we looked at in that last lecture nominated Master Xuyun to go first and do what? Make reservations for them. After reaching Digang Reed Harbor at Datong, he had to cross which river? The Yangtze River, the Changjiang, but he had no money, so the ferry left without him. He walked along the river's edge and put his foot on an unreliable bunch of reeds or a loose rock, lost his footing, and fell into the rushing water, where he was carried along helplessly for a day and a night. Okay, let's take a look at it. So, Dishen Pasher was a famous monk. We know things about him. He came to Jiuhuashan to cultivate with him because these are the grown-ups in the Zen, in the Chan world, gathering together, listening to the Avatamsaka, living on the mountainside like hermits in their various malpongs. And what a wonderful way. This is what monks, can do. Monks and nuns can support each other and cultivate out in nature. This is why you leave home and you cultivate ascetic practices so that you can live with absolutely zero creature comforts and feel liberated. The food out there is maybe some mantou, maybe some steamed flour buns, maybe rice, maybe chou ganja, some sugar cane, they call it, stinking sugar cane chou ganja, that doesn't require refrigeration, and any vegetables you can grow, but at that altitude, you can't grow much, and it's rocky. There's caves. They're up on the top of a mountain, but they're happy. I know in over 10,000 feet in Tibet, the monks survive on what's called sampa, which is just powdered, powdered sampa is what grain that gets powdered and mixed with water and pounded into a pancake, and that's what you eat. And if you can put up with it, it's as free as a human can be in a human body. Most people can't stand it because it's just too bitter. But that's why they train, so they can live up there free of affliction and just enough to survive. But the meditation is sublime. Now, that being said, when you hear about a Chan meditation session being planned, the hermits on the mountain perk up their ears and go, what do you say? A 12-week birth and death Chan session, that's special. The reason it's special is, as sublime as it is to meditate as a hermit alone, there's a different energy when everybody is meditating together. Especially when things like food and security are taken care of by the monk sponsoring the session. Gaomin Si is famous. 中山的腿子高敏香. It's famous for its long incense sticks. Gaomin is right on the Great Canal, the Dayunhe, near Nanjing, Yangzhou, and it's been a center for meditation for centuries and centuries. So when Yuelang Heshang, when Abbot Yuelang sends the word out that he's found a sponsor, somebody has offered enough money that he can host maybe 100 monks, maybe 70, 80 monks, maybe more, for 12 weeks. The monks near and far perk up their ears and say, I would consider attending that. However, Yangzhou is far from Anhui, from Jiuhuashan. Somebody has to go and has to guahao, right? They have to register. The monks, the hermits, want to get there first so that so a place is held for them. And they know that it's going to fill up really fast, so somebody has to go. Somebody has to go in advance and say save 4 spots. And these are all the gang up here on Jiuhuashan are famous monks, right? This includes who? Pu Zhao, Yue Xia, Yin Lian, and Master Empty Cloud. So he gets picked. Master Empty Cloud, you go first. You register for us. They respect you. They will certainly save a spot for us. So he goes down the mountain first. The other 3 will come along later. And he gets to the Yangtze River, Changjiang, but somehow no money. What do you do when you're a penniless, literally penniless, penny free, no money, penniless monk? So the ferry goes without him. And the Yangtze River is a big, big, fast-moving river. So he says, well, I'll hoof it, I'll walk it. And on his way to looking for the ford or something, or another opportunity, he loses his footing and, oops, falls into the river. There he is. Now, this shows the river is more like a creek. It's not. The Changjiang Yangtze River at this point is huge. Here you go. Curious about, I heard about this for years and years and years, so I thought, look into it. Here we are. Okay. Jiuhuashan, where is Jiuhuashan? Jiuhuashan is right here. Digangzhen, no, sorry, not. Jiuhuashan is Anhui, hold on. I'll find it. There it is. Here's Jiuhuashan. Jiuhua Mountain, right there in Anhui province, right? Remote, way up in the air. He's got to go from there on foot to cross, he's got to go from there to cross the Yangtze River, right here. This is the Changjiang. And here's where he hopes to cross. He falls in the river here. And he bumps down the river, although it runs this direction, all the way to where he is fished out here. Digang, Cai Shi Ji. So in the overnight, the river moves so fast, he goes all this way. His destination is here, Yangzhou, at Gaominsi. This is where he hoped to travel, but he fell in the water here and bumped down the river, nearly drowning all the way to here, where he got fished out. That's the next episode. But look at the distance involved. He traveled on foot from here, right? That's Jiuhuashan, right there, all the way to the river. This is Anhui province. And here's Jiuhuashan. He went down the mountain, made his way to the river, fell in the river here, bumped and floated down to here, Cai Shi Ji, in the process of traveling here to Zhenjiang, Yangzhou, Gaominsi. Wow. Nearly drowned, but tough. How tough is this guy? He didn't drown, right? So, Shifu's verse. 高僧习教已3年，月朗相约众参禅，抵港水难经昼夜，思而不亡，寿命长。The eminent Sanghans studied together for a period of 3 years. When the abbot Yue Lang invited the monks to Canchan to look into Chan, but at Reed Harbor, the master slipped and drifted for a day and a night. Although he might have drowned, somehow his life was not yet over. So, man, oh man, you think how wonderful it must be to be an 8-stage bodhisattva like Master Cloud. Well, he nearly froze to death. He nearly died of dysentery, and now he fell in the river. He had a hard life, difficult life. And yet, he persevered. Okay, here we go. Age 56, to be continued. 采石矶或往旧，留至采石矶附近，与人王得之，唤报祭祀，僧认之。僧乃持山统住者，君曰：“此德清师也。” 必至死旧苏， 时6月28日，而口鼻大小便诸孔流血，居数日，复高眠，至客见荣翠，问病否？曰无。The master bobbed along the river to a place near the Cai-shi jetty where a fisherman caught him in a net. The fisherman summoned a bhikshu from Baoji Monastery, who immediately recognized the master. They had lived together on Chishan, Crimson Mountain. Startled, he cried, "It's Dharma Master Doqing," Master Empty Cloud's formal name. They carried him to the monastery and revived him. It was the 28th day of the 6th lunar month. The master was bleeding from every orifice of his body. Even so, only a few days later, he left to resume his journey to Gaomin Monastery. When the guest prefect saw the master's disheveled appearance, he asked, "Are you ill?" "No," replied the master. Somebody's going to say, "I thought monks weren't supposed to lie." Did anybody think? Nobody thought that. Nobody thought that. So, I'm sure he would say, illness is a state of mind. My mind is as strong as ever, right? So, here's the fisherman, and he didn't pull out a turtle, he didn't put out a dolphin, he pulled out a monk out of the water. Fishing in the Yangtze River, out came a monk. Now, the current is fast, the river's deep, it's a long river. The Yangtze, the Changjiang in Chinese means the long river. And to bob along for a night and a day, he easily could have died. He didn't die. The verse goes, 汝是南华我亲闻，公在禅堂对众云，彼时更有詹宁师，严老居士为一人。At Nanhua Monastery, I heard the story myself, as related above. The master himself in the Chan Hall told it to the assembly. Ananda Jennings attended the session from the U.S. Elder Upasika Yen served as translator that day. So it's not very often that that Shifu kind of breaks the proscenium arch, that he steps into the story to say I. They're speaking the first person, but here is one of them. He heard Master Empty Cloud relate the story himself in the Chan Hall with the assembly. And this is at Nanhua Monastery, Nanhua Si, the Sixth Patriarch's Monastery. Ananda Jennings was this fascinating scholar, researcher from Santa Barbara, California, who wound up at Nanhua Si inviting Master Empty Cloud to travel to America and speak Dharma, to bring the Dharma to the West. Master Empty Cloud said, my karma is such that my fate and that of China are intertwined. I have more work to do here. I can't go. I will, however, send my disciples, Master Empty Cloud, or Master Shenhua, Master Zhiding, and a third monk, Fa somebody, who will take the Dharma to the Western Hemisphere. And sure enough, so on this occasion of Master Empty Cloud relating his story of falling into the river was the same time that Shifu got his prediction to come to the West. And Shifu mentions that the elder layman Yan translated for Ananda Jennings at the time. Okay, pretty interesting. Now, we saw the map, we saw the distance involved, and Master Empty Cloud's fame was such that even being pulled out nearly dead from drowning, there would be somebody, some monk would recognize him, because he was a major figure at this point in Chinese Buddhism. Recognized him, they took him up to Baoji Si and put him in the infirmary. But Master Empty Cloud knew that if he didn't continue, 3 other monks, his hermit neighbors from Zhouhuashan, would not be permitted to join the sit, the 12-week sit, Chan retreat. So he knew this is a guy, his word is ironclad, so he's got to go. There's no cell phone, there's no telephone, there's no way to notify Gao Min Si that, he can't call ahead and make a reservation. He has to show up in person. So he said, I'm fine, I'm going. When he arrived, the Zhike saw him at Gao Min Si and said, are you sure you're ready to do the retreat? I'm fine, he said. All right. Ni lai shun shou ru ru. Difficulty comes, you take it on just the same. We ready? Here we go. 乃夜月朗和尚深山中侍候，激情待之，功不允，以不言多水事。只求在堂打气，该司家风严峻，请直具旧者，以慢众论。于是表堂打相满，哎呦，公顺受不此，而病亦烈，流血流经不止，以死待之。The master called on the abbot Yue Lang. The abbot asked about the master's fellow monks on the mountain. Then he requested the master assume a staff position for the forthcoming meditation session. The master politely declined without mentioning his fall into the river. He asked to simply be allowed to join the meditation session. The monastery's strict rules held that refusing to accept an official role is considered a slight to the monastic community. Thereupon, the abbot had to publicly announce the master would be beaten with the incense board. He quietly accepted the punishment, but his sickness was aggravated. Blood and other fluids flowed from his body. The master silently awaited his imminent death. Oh, yeah. So, what's going on? My goodness. The idea is this. When a Chan session happens, it's completely a, what would it be? Do we have anything similar? A public event, kind of like a concert, kind of like a competition or a match, kind of like a civil service exam, kind of like a YMCA, if anybody can make sense of all those similes. The idea is one monastery serves as the venue, and somebody comes along and donates enough resources to host a number of meditators for X number of days. Usually it's 7. Sometimes it's 21 days. Sometimes here, 12. Other times it's 10 weeks. So there has to be enough food and enough resources of all kinds so that you can take care of that number of monks. Now, a Chan session requires certain jobs to be done. Timekeepers, Dharma speakers, leaders of the meditation, who sits first, who, organizes the schedule and all. And the host, whoever the monk in charge of the monastery, has the right to invite noted monks to do the jobs. When somebody like Master Empty Cloud shows up, if the word goes out that Xuyun Lecture is going to be present in the session, and he'll be number 2, he'll be the main speaker. Everybody wants to come, and the session will be, quote, a success. Oh, we sat 12 weeks with Master Empty Cloud. It becomes a historic event. If, no matter who you are, if you are invited to take a job and you refuse, you have to be chastised, punished for it. Why? Because nobody wants to do those jobs. Nobody wants to do those jobs. Everybody wants to do the sit. That's why you come down from your Malpong up on the mountain to take part, so that you can get all the good energy and all of the benefits of group meditation and don't have any responsibility. So everybody knows that's how it's done. It's the only way you can get people to take the jobs. So now, Empty Cloud, as he came down, did not tell the story about falling into the river and nearly drowning. And the drowning was a near-death experience. He only came this far on his willpower. But here he is. He doesn't want to come to anybody's attention. He doesn't want people to notice him. He wants to be anonymous and just meditate. That's why he didn't mention that he had fallen into the river. And so now, because he refused to accept the official role that the abbot Yuelang asked him to hold, Master Yuelang does not want to beat him at all. This is one of their revered elders. But the way things go, here's the public beating scene. He has to announce that Master Empty Cloud has refused. Otherwise, the discipline in the monastery would fall apart. Now, an incense board is a sword made of pine. It's substantial. We've got them here at Gold Coast Dharma Realm. We've got them at CTDB, at Gold Mountain, everywhere. Shangban, they're called. It's not like the Japanese people know about in the Zen temples in Japan. You get tapped on your shoulder and they whack you during the sit. Those shangban are mostly for the noise and for the invigoration. They're very thin and they whack in the air, but they don't cause any injury. They're there to startle you awake. The Chinese shangban are wooden swords. It's like being hit with if you can imagine what fencers, people who are using, kendo, the sword combat, they don't want to cut the skin, but they're thick. They're thick pine swords, and if you're hit with one, you bruise. You can, if you're really whacked with one, it's a major. The impact of a shangban is substantial, and so according to the rules of a Chan session, Master Empty Cloud has to be hit and hurt. Otherwise, nobody would ever do these jobs. So it's a slight to the monastic community. So the abbot announces the master's beaten. Then he finds a very strong, tall monk, the master of arms, to come and deliver the beating. And he accepts the beating, and now he's bleeding. He's closer to death than he is alive, more dead than alive at this point. But guess what he does? Nothing. He doesn't say, "Stop, I nearly died, pity me." This is what you call stiff bones. Heng ni xiang jia chu tai ran, shou ru bu yuan gu sheng xian, fang xia shen xin qiu zhu ji, gen shen shi jing li xiao juan. Against overbearing, the odds, let's see, that the is a typo. Against overbearing odds and adversity, he remained calm and composed. He accepted insult without resentment, like the ancient worthies of the past. By putting down both body and mind, he looked for strength within himself. The senses, sense objects, and consciousness all vanished from awareness. I'll say, if you come back into your body, you can't stand it. There he is. So, what's life like for an 8-stage bodhisattva, a Chan master in China in the 19th century? Can you imagine? What a story, right? This is episode number 100 of 200. We're halfway through the story of Master Empty Cloud, and all you can do is say, they don't make them like they used to. What a story. So, by golly, we're back at Gaomin Si. I've been to Gaomin Si, and it's right on the canal, the Grand Canal in China, which was one of their feats of engineering, and it's got a tall pagoda there. There's a tall ta, and it's truly a famous, wonderful monastery, and they will here's the Grand Canal. They will take you to the Chan. Well, actually, the Chan Hall has been rebuilt. This is the Shaman, but you can see the spot where Master Empty Cloud wakes up. There's the pagoda. Yeah, there's the Ta. So the atmosphere for Chan at Gaomin Si is just unmatched. Yeah, quite wonderful. The abbot there has designed the new Chan Hall. It's circular, and lay people can sit at the same time as monastics in several circles, and women. There's room for women and men to sit in separate circles around the center of the hall, so you can meditate without any false thinking if you have the affinities to go to Gaomin Si. And the incense there is particularly long, so it's called Gaomin Xiang. The incense burns other places 40 minutes, there it's 60 minutes or 90 or 2-hour long incense as well. So, yeah, quite marvelous. Alrighty, well, I know you want to find out what happened next, so don't miss next week. We'll continue with the story of Master Empty Cloud's picture biography. We're getting to one of the turning points in his life, his enlightenment experience. Happens here. Now, as I mentioned at the start, if you all don't have anywhere in particular to dedicate merit, situation in Los Angeles today is very iffy. We don't know. The flames could return any minute. They say that the fires are 0%. I guess 6% on some. Here is flying over the LA fires here. You can see what it's like. Yeah. This is 3 steps, 1 bow past right here. This is where we bowed, by the way, for what that's worth. So we can dedicate merit wherever you please, but I know where mine's going. So. Every share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, lay our minds away to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward, may all who sorrow leave their grief pain. May His boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this burden of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. And before we end, I've got a lovely image of Guanyin Bodhisattva. You can bow if you care to. Here we go. Bow in respect to the Venerable Master. See you all next week for more of the adventures of Master Empty Cloud. See you then. Amitofo. Bye, everybody.